The beginning of the book of Genesis is riddled with expressions of God's delight at what he's made. Again and again we hear it. It is good, it is good, it is good. And then humanity is created. It is very good. But the section we hear in our first reading is the first time in the book of Genesis something is described as not good. Namely, it is not good for the man to be alone. Now, this doesn't mean that it's not good for people to be single. It doesn't mean that priests shouldn't be celibate. This passage is highlighting the fact that man is made for relationship. We're made to be in union with other people. Pope John Paul II spoke of this experience of Adam as original solitude. Adam is not alone in the sense that there's nothing else there. There's plenty of stuff there. There are all kind of animals, birds of the air, sea creatures. All that God has made is there up to that point. But Adam acknowledges, as he names all of those creatures one by one, that none of them is a suitable partner. None of them corresponds to his desire to share life. And in this sense, he is alone. He's alone with his need. You know, he can't chat with the giraffe about his longing for meaning and purpose in life. He's not going to cuddle up next to the lion and talk about how sometimes when he looks at the stars, he feels so small and insignificant. No, it's ridiculous. We don't do that with animals because they don't have a rational soul and they can't understand. He is alone with his desire for something more. No other creature has this in creation. He's alone with that desire. And that, God says, is not good. It is not good that the man should be alone in that way. And this is the striking thing to me. You know, we're surrounded by people. There's no shortage of human beings to come across in our daily lives, on the streets, in the grocery, at work, in school. And yet, it seems to me that so often we are still alone. We're still in solitude. It's amazing that we could be, we can talk with people about 1,000 different things, about a TV show or about politics, about what's happening in the world, but far too often we still isolate ourselves because we don't share life with people. We don't share our heart. We don't share what's really meaningful to us. And because we don't take that step of intimacy with other people, we end up in solitude. We could be surrounded by 1,000 people and still feel alone. Still feel like no one knows us. Nobody knows what I'm going through. Nobody knows what I'm wrestling with. Because we don't talk about those things. You know, you could be lying in bed next to your spouse and feel miles away from them because you're not really sharing life together. And in fact, it seems to me that solitude is even worse when you have someone next to you. Someone that you expect it from, who maybe isn't offering it, or maybe you're not offering it. Recently, I was listening to some music and I came across the song Mad World by Tears for Fears. It's a great song, slightly depressing, but a great song. This is what they sing. I'm not going to sing it. It's been stuck in my head though. But this is what they sing. All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Went to school and I was very nervous. No one knew me. No one knew me. Hello, teacher, what's my lesson? Look right through me. Look right through me. I mean, this is it. This is the solitude that we are not made for. Friends, think of all the pain that we cause each other because we look right through people. Think of all the struggle that we ourselves deal with and put on our own shoulders because we're not willing to share life with someone. We're not willing to share our struggle and to share the things that are really meaningful to us. Because there, in the face of the other person, is the image of God waiting for us. The image of the one who is love, who is beauty, and who is truth. And we look right through that image because we consider someone useless or inconvenient, or we don't want to have to deal with them, and so we don't offer ourselves and share what's really happening. And the result of that constantly looking through people is that we feel alone. We are alone because we're not sharing life. We're just sharing space. We can do this with our own family. Share space, but not share life. I don't think it's an accident that in our day that there's such a high level of suicide. Because we are alone. And we don't want to admit it. Like we don't want to admit that we actually need other people when the book of Genesis reminds us we are made to need other people. It's not good for us to be alone. But there's no reason for us to live like this because we're called to live in communion. And so what does that mean for us to live in communion? It means that we have to start talking about things that are important to us with people who care about us. From an early age, we have to teach our young people to search for the answers to questions that arise in their hearts and not to just overlook them. And not just that, but we have to search with them because we're all looking for the same thing, for hope and meaning and purpose. It also means that we have to seek out friendships that help us to look at ourselves seriously. I think too often we seek out friendships because they distract us better. We look for friends who can help us to not think about the hard things in life. That's not friendship. We can use a TV for that. Friendship is walking with someone, helping them to find the meaning and purpose in life that God has put there. That's what real friendship is. And we have to be with each other in that way when we're dealing with illness or sadness or struggles. Our friends should help us to look at those things with hope. And finally, we have to stop looking through people and start looking at them, especially the people in our own homes, the people we are given. Because these people are given to us as a gift from God, and we can't look through them, thinking of them as problems that we have to just get around. Above all, we have to ask ourselves, am I sharing life with people, or am I just sharing space? The answer to that question, I think, can tell us a lot about whether we are really alone or if we're living in communion with the people that God has put in our lives. Friends, we know in the depths of our hearts that we are made to be in relationship with others. So let's do it. Let's be with the people that God has put in our lives so that we can experience more fully the communion that we are made for, the communion that ultimately reminds us of our union that is with God.